Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have an upload that I am looking forward to sharing with you. I got some really terrifying experiences, Dogman experiences. I also want to take a deep dive into what is starting to look like a government cover-up, government/media cover-up, unknown animal attack in Colorado, in Costilla County. I've had some experiences in that region before. It's near Fort Garland. So before we get into all of that, though, a couple quick links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. The merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button. Takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter and are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into today's upload, shall we? All right, so we're going to start today's upload off with some encounters. Then we'll take a deep dive into what is starting to look like a government and media cover-up in Colorado of an unknown animal attack resulting in a death. But now let's start it with some encounters. This happened in Connecticut, the year 2008. I actually saw this thing twice, 2 different times. The first time I saw it, it was at night. A little context. When I was little, I always used to stare out my window at night when it faced a wooden grove that was about 100 yards or so away from the house. And falling asleep staring out the window due to how peaceful the night was in those woods was the norm. One night, I was about 9 or 10 years old, staring out that window, and suddenly I noticed 2 yellow lights in the woods. At first, I was confused, thinking that a car somehow had been in the trees. But as I stared more at these yellow lights, they were disappearing and reappearing in the same spot, almost as if they were blinking eyes. As my groggy brain took a closer look at the lights, I started to notice other odd things. Like how the tree these lights were showing up in was a little thicker than I remembered, and how there was a giant wolf's head in the tree, and that these yellow lights aligned with that head to be its eyes. This is when I was getting nervous and I bumped my head on the window accidentally, trying to back away. Well, as soon as my head hit that window, the wolf's head turned suddenly towards my window, and the rest of the creature's body started to emerge from behind the tree. The body was hard to see at first because it was jet black and perfectly blended in with the shadows. But now it was stepping out into the moonlight, and I'm freaking out because this wolf is on 2 legs. And the top of the wolf's head was a good 9 feet from the ground. The wolf stayed in the tree line, but was still very much visible from my window, and I could tell that it knew exactly where I was, even though there were no lights on outside or inside for it to see me with. By this point I had seen it more than enough, so I quickly closed my curtains and hid under my covers the whole night, waiting to hear it clawing at my window to get me. Fortunately, it didn't happen, and I stayed buried under my covers until my alarm clock went off the next morning. I never told anyone about it because, although I saw it myself, I still couldn't believe that it happened. The second experience happened 12 years later during a 4th of July celebration. My dad and I were setting off fireworks in the backyard to celebrate. And when we were done with the fireworks show, as my dad and I were picking up for the night, I saw the same pitch black wolf's head peek out from behind the shed with the same glowing yellow eyes. The wolf's head was absolutely massive. It was every bit the size of a 3-foot wide window that was on the side of the house. When it saw me staring at it, it quickly ducked its head back behind the shed. I told my dad that there was a big dog back there, and he chalked it up to coyote. Well, if it was a coyote, then how did it manage to stand on 2 legs? And how did its face take up the entirety of a 3-foot window? I don't know for sure what I saw, but it does match the descriptions that have been given for a dogman by other supposed witnesses. So, until I see otherwise, I am going to say that I saw a dogman. It was terrifying to see both times, and I never want to see it again. Thank you for allowing me to share. Second encounter comes to us from Monterey Hills, Los Angeles. Before I get into my experience, here's a little background. Every day, usually after finishing my homework, or if I was just bored and had nothing to do, I would take my dirt bike on a run to the nearest grocery mart, which was about 3 miles away from my house. To get there, I had to bike through one-way streets that snaked throughout these secluded neighborhoods of the area. All of the houses in these neighborhoods looked surprisingly upper middle class, which was strange considering my neighborhood, which was just down the hill, looked nowhere near as rich. But I didn't mind that too much, focusing more on how quiet and peaceful the drive through these streets were. To get to these streets, I had to chug my bike up multiple hills, which was a bit of a drag since my bike did pretty badly uphill. But taking these streets was much safer than taking the main roads. This happened on the 15th. It was a Friday, which meant I could stay up late and play video games. Of course, my friends from school, whom I typically play with, were not online, so I definitely had nothing to do. And I was in the mood for some chocolate. I decided to take my nighttime bike ride. My ride to the grocery mart was normal. I parked my bike, grabbed my chocolates, and headed back. Now, since it was nighttime, I decided to take the normal streets, since there were not many cars on this road. As I exited the normal streets, I began my descent down the one-way streets that cut through the secluded neighborhoods. I noticed a car following close behind. The guy's headlights were cranked all the way up, which reflected through my bike's side mirror, blinding me through my helmet. I decided to pull over and let the guy pass. I stopped my bike behind a car parked in front of a house. Like all of the houses on this block, the lights inside were off, so I was not worried about the owner of the house seeing me and thinking, why is this suspicious biker just sitting behind my car? Also, I was wearing all black, so I would not be surprised if someone saw me and mistaken me for someone doing something shady. I was probably sitting on my bike for about a minute waiting for this guy to pass, but his car had not turned the last corner. I did not see any headlights coming from down the road, so I figured it wasn't coming. Before I continued my way, I decided to take in the night air. I flipped open my visor of my helmet and took another deep breath. I turned off my bike's motor. I may sound a bit sugar-coated, but once I turned the motor off, the entire area fell dead silent. All that could be heard was the faint chittering of the crickets and the wind blowing through the trees. I sat there with my head up into the sky, eyes closed and arms to my side. It was so peaceful. When all of a sudden, the distracting pitter-patter of footsteps came within earshot. Turning towards those footsteps, I noticed that they were coming from across the street. The footsteps did not sound like your typical person. They sounded much heavier. And suddenly I saw a tall black figure emerge from behind a garden hedge in front of a home across the street from me. Whatever this thing was, it was tall and fast. If I had to estimate how tall it was, I'd say it was nearing at least the 8-foot range. At this point, I'm frozen in terror. The only part of me that moved was my head as I watched this figure run down the driveway of the home, the one with the garden hedge, and run the opposite way from me across the street. But as the figure crossed the street, the moonlight illuminated it, giving me a somewhat clearer picture of what it was. It looked like your stereotypical depiction of a werewolf: sharp claws, bent legs, mangy fur, pointed ears, and a toothy muzzle. Basically, just a wolf-human hybrid, and my heart sank. The creature disappeared into the shadows cast by the homes across the street, but I could still hear its heavy footsteps as they grew further and further away. A minute passed, then another. I was left sitting on my bike, confused and frozen in fear, and I did not want to move, let alone turn my bike motor on and alert everything and everyone in the area where I was. But I didn't have a choice. I silently hopped off my bike and manually turned it in the opposite direction. I got on my bike, and the instant I turned on my bike's motor, I sped off. The ride back was a blur. All I remember was me zooming down the streets. I was definitely not going to make the speed limit, nevertheless stopping for stop signs. I just had to get out of there as fast as I could, and thank God that thing didn't see me hiding in the darkness. The second I had gotten home, I told my parents the whole thing, and of course they didn't believe me. I looked up on my computer if tonight there was a full moon, and to my horror it was. I didn't get any sleep that night, fearing that this thing followed me home and was stalking me throughout my window. Jesus, I'm getting chills just writing this now. I've kept this experience secret from my friends, as I know that if I told them, they would all think I was crazy. And this is the first time I talked about it full. I've been hit by a truck, bitten by a pit bull. I promise I'm not a werewolf, LOL. And almost drowned. But this was by far the scariest thing I have ever encountered. I haven't gotten on my bike since. Today's third experience. This took place at around 11 p.m. on a Wednesday night back in 2015, and let me start this off like this. I'm an avid coyote hunter, and I used to absolutely love hunting them at night when they are most active. One afternoon I decided I was going to take off and go hunting after the sun went down. I got home, loaded my gear, and hit the road. About an hour later, I pulled into a parking area for the state forestry that I was going to hunt. This particular place that I had chosen, I have had luck in the past and knew of a den about a mile off the main trail, so I set down the graveled path, unknowing of what I was going to encounter in a short while. My strategy was to walk the 100 yards at a time, stop, blast a coyote locator call until I heard one respond. On the first set, nothing. Second set, nothing. However, the third set, everything changed. The trail that I'm on makes a really sharp, almost hairpin turn to the right, and in the middle of that hairpin is a Civil War era cemetery with a dense pine thicket behind it and a very steep bottom across the trail in front. I have a habit of walking through the cemetery and touching the main headstone, almost as a sign of respect or something. As I'm walking up to the headstone, I hear the faint sound of something landing on the ground in the pine thicket. The weird thing was that I only heard one boom, as if a human or bipedal thing touched down. Usually, animals such as bobcat, when they jump to the ground, its front paws first, then rear. So boom, boom. Immediately, I started to feel uneasy and wanted to leave. The only problem, whatever was in that pine thicket, stood between me and the only way back to my truck. I start to notice the silence, like everything was making noise a minute ago was gone. At this point in time, I noticed the unmistakable feeling of being watched. I immediately start scanning the pine thicket to see if I could see something, anything that would make this bizarre situation make sense. I scanned for what felt like hours until finally I noticed it. On the edge of the thicket, there it was. Too tall to be a human, maybe 7 to 8 feet tall. I could only make out its outline, but it looked emaciated and deathly. My mind had been playing tricks on me, I thought, because this is the stuff you only read about, never encounter. My reality soon changed when this thing darted to the right and ran down into the bottom. This bottom is about 300 to 400 feet deep and very steep, but whatever that was, got to the bottom of it in no time flat. Now the path to my truck was now clear, and I'm trying to come up with a plan to make it. But as I would soon discover, the thing ran into the bottom to better position itself to ambush me from behind. I waited about 5 minutes before I decided to move. I took one step forward and heard it. It was in the bottom directly below me, slowly working its way up the hill. I bolted straight across the trail, through the cemetery, and into that pine thicket toward the main road. I ran about 100 yards and stopped. The scariest part, when I stopped, it stopped. The entire time I was running, I could hear it running behind me, gaining on me. I always carry a pistol when I hunt, and it's always in the holster on my chest just in case. I decided the only way I was making it out of here alive was to dump and run. Essentially, you fire in the direction of the threat until your mag is empty, and then you run like hell. I had 3 mags in total, 51 bullets between me and certain death. I counted 1, 2, 3. Bang! I emptied the mag and made a mad dash as far as I could, never hearing that thing behind me. I stopped after what felt like hours, reloaded and readied for another barrage of bullets. 15 seconds after stopping, I started hearing crashing, like a huge animal blasting through the trees running in my direction. Bang, I dumped and bolted. This time the plan was to run all the way to the truck, about a half a mile from my current position through the woods. This time, while running, I could hear it getting closer and closer. I jumped behind a fallen log to reload. One last time, the thing stopped, and I could hear its breath. I could hear a low growl this thing had, like a dog or a coyote mixed with something from the pits of hell. Bang, bang, bang. The slide of my pistol locked back, and I was off. The truck was now in sight, maybe 70 yards. I ran faster than I ever had my entire life, and I made it finally. I jumped in, started the truck, and got the hell out of there, the entire time scanning the woods on either side and behind me. I've never been back into those woods in Brown County at night alone, and, more than likely, never will. Thank you. Today's final encounter. In the winter of January 2019, I had an encounter with what I now know was an upright canine, and at the time I had no idea what I was looking at. I knew what it absolutely was not. Anyway, on to it. It was the first weekend of January, stupid cold. The house I was in was pretty close to a wooded area, and sometimes critters got into the garage. Raccoons, possums, occasionally a bear. They would rip through the trash, and I'd have a mess in the morning. Nothing strange, just a big pain in the ass. On this night, I can't remember if it was a Friday or Saturday, I heard something going for the cans, so I got up to look out the side window. The window overlooked the driveway, and you could see the top of my car, but not necessarily the tires. This is important. So I'm trying to get a look toward the cans, and I see this big, dark animal on all fours just kind of sauntering down the driveway toward the road. It's got its head down, and it's snuffling back and forth. I immediately think bear, and I move to the big picture window so I can get a better look. What walked out of my driveway onto the road was no bear. This thing stood up on 2 legs. It walked out onto the road, semi-hunched over. I stood there pissing my pants. I have no words strong enough to describe the visceral feeling seeing this thing inspired. It walked out onto that road and stood almost directly under the yellow street lamp. The next day I measured about 7 feet. It walked limp wrist. It was tall and lean. Think center in basketball, not linebacker. The ears were tall and pointed. Its fingers were long, very similar to a raccoon's hands. It was either black or dark gray. The yellow street light threw off the color. I can't describe how much fear seeing this thing brought. It's the most god-awful creature because it's so wrong. I stood in that window and watched it, horrified. It walked pretty casually across the road and appeared to kind of hunch down onto its haunches, and at this point I could see its eyes. They were a backlit blue, as in they were not like the normal animal eye shine. They appeared to be lit from within. I think it may have sat on its ass in this big ugly brush. It was looking directly at me. At this point, it's no more than 70 or so feet from the goddamn picture window, and it's looking directly at me. I remember trying to sink down very slowly between me and the picture window sill so it wouldn't see me. I did as much and peeked over that sill. I couldn't see it anymore in the bush. I don't know if it was looking elsewhere or if it happened to move. I stayed there for quite some time on my knees peeking out. I remember getting very cold due to my wet pants. I literally pissed my pants. And I remember waiting in the other room for my brother and sister to get home. I also remember that my brother's dog, who went absolutely batshit if a squirrel farted in the other county, slept through the whole damn thing. Didn't budge. He was the barkiest goddamn dog on the planet. And he was totally unbothered. I've had some time to reflect on how odd this was. I heard the garage cans getting jostled. It wasn't a subtle sound. And the dog kept snoring. How weird. I eventually sold the house because after this, bizarre shit started happening. I refused to leave after dark, and if I absolutely had to, I still wouldn't. I was that afraid. This thing was a monster 100%. It still makes me very uneasy to go out after dark even now. Another interesting thing, this wasn't in the remote boonies. The property was in Pennsylvania, about 6 or so miles from downtown Scranton. There were woods behind the house, and the neighborhood was a big cul-de-sac. It had one road in and one road out. The back half was all woods for roughly 40 miles to another town. I think now it probably came off the mountain to eat, or it came down to drink, as the property wasn't that far from the Susquehanna River. And there's a third option. The northeast of Pennsylvania is riddled with coal mines. There are hundreds of miles of mines here that are not used. Who knows? Maybe they are over winter underground. It's a certain temp all year. I think around 50 degrees. Seems like an almost ideal territory. Very, very few people go down there. It's too dangerous with glasses and substances. And it's very easy to get lost. Very few mind maps survive to this day. In all sincerity, I wouldn't wish to see this thing on my worst enemy. It changed me, and I am still terrified. I do my best to keep an open mind, but I can't help wonder how much other stuff I have laughed at that wanders in the dark. What else is real? All right, so tonight's second half of the upload is we're going to take a deep dive into what is starting to look like a government/media cover-up. Possible animal attack leads to a death. I did make contact with the Castilla County Sheriff's Office as an independent reporter, because technically that's what I am, and asked some questions. We'll get into that after this. This happened on what I believe was Friday. It came to everyone's attention on the 25th. So it kind of came to the public's attention on the 25th Saturday. Facebook post reads, Castilla County Sheriff's Office, along with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and Colorado Parks and Wildlife are currently investigating a possible animal attack in the Sangre del Cristo Ranch that possibly led to a death of an individual. We are awaiting results from the El Paso County coroner to determine the actual cause of death. At the time, we are unable to verify what type of animal may be responsible for the attack until further analysis is completed. If you live in or around or visit the area, be vigilant and aware of your surroundings. Deputies have hiked the immediate area with the assistance of CBI and were not able to locate anything to identify the animal. That is not true. Per a deputy, or I guess she would be a deputy who answers phones and such, there were prints found, because in other articles that I read, the initial thought was possible wolf or possible mountain lion. Apparently, the prints when the deputies and CBI went hiking were larger than a canine or a feline, the largest feline in North America being the mountain lion, and larger than a bear, but a different pattern, a different shape to them. So, first article, January 25th, so Saturday. This was posted at 2:33 p.m. Multiple agencies are investigating after one person was found dead from what they believe was an animal attack. The Castilla County Sheriff's Office, Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and Colorado Parks and Wildlife said the person was attacked in the Sangre de Cristo ranches. Deputies and CBI officials hiked the immediate area, but were not able to locate or identify the animal. Authorities said they were not unable to verify what type of animal may be responsible for the attack until further analysis is completed. The sheriff's office said they are waiting on results from the El Paso County coroner to determine the cause of death. Deputies urge anyone living or visiting the area to be vigilant and stay aware of their surroundings. Now, it gets a little more interesting. And usually when it is not, and once again, I am not an expert in any shape or form in cryptozoology. I do not believe there are experts. But I have looked at these attacks since 2019, and I feel pretty confident in identifying bullshit when it comes to these attacks. And right now, I wanted to wait and see what transpired when the weekend was over, after Monday, and right now we are, it's Wednesday now. I'm recording this actually Tuesday evening, and there is no new news. And all of these articles are all very small and lack in detail. Possible deadly animal attack in Castilla County, January 25th, updated the 26th. Castilla County Sheriff's Office report that multiple agencies are investigating possible animal attack that may have led to the death of one person east of Almosa on Saturday, January 25th. The Sheriff's Office, along with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and Colorado Park and Wildlife, are investigating the incident, which took place in the Sangre de Cristo ranches. Officials are waiting for the results from the El Paso County coroner to determine the cause of death, according to the Sheriff's Office. Sheriff's Office said they were unable to verify what type of animal may be involved in the attack until further analysis. and ask, once again, those who live or visit in the area are asked to look out and be aware of your surroundings. Deputies had hiked the immediate area to help with help from CBI and were not able to locate anything to identify. So, one thing that sticks out, well, two things, the lack of any information. Because if you think back into Christopher Whiteley's case, when he was found in the woods in Hood County, Texas, Lipin, Texas, they immediately had, a couple large paragraphs of information, who he was, what happened, da-da-da-da-da. Not like this. And then that's when, because at that point, there was no kind of cover-up going on at that point. They were going to blame it on a mountain lion. And then when another agency came involved, sheriff's office was going to blame it on mountain lion. When Fish and Game came and said, this ain't a mountain lion, that's when the cover-up came about. But what they say here that kind of struck me as strange was waiting for results from the El Paso County coroner to determine the cause of death. And then the next sentence is unable to verify what type of animal. You just told us you didn't know. Now you're telling us you're unable to verify what animal or what kind of animal did it. Well, if you are unable to determine the cause of death, that could be multiple things. Like a freaking boulder could have fallen on the guy's head, but you see what I mean. This is posted yesterday at 1:36, the 27th, so Monday. Colorado Bureau of Investigations, in collaboration with the Castilla County Sheriff's Office, is investigating a possible animal attack in the Sangre de Cristo Ranch area. A spokesperson for the Sheriff's Office said that the alleged attack could be responsible for the death of one person. They are waiting for the results of the El Paso County Coroner's Office for the cause of death. As of now, they are unsure what type of animal could be responsible. They hiked the immediate area and were unable to find any animal identification. But Sheriff's Office warns residents of the area to be aware of their surroundings. Are some responses from the Castilla County Sheriff's Office post that was on Facebook. They know what it is. And there is only one type of animal in Colorado currently being covered for because of certain agencies. If DOW honestly can't figure out what animal did this, how can they be called experts, much less be trusted to make decisions about reintroducing top-tier predators into the environment they are unfamiliar with? The wolf comments are funny. The people that make them even funnier. If you have a problem with predators in the wilderness, it's time to move to the city. The U.S. wasn't better without wolves and is most certainly not worse with them. As a matter of absolute fact, it's better. Nature has a balance. I am forced to believe that anti-wolf people are either entitled or ignorant. Sadly, maybe both. Oh yeah, if they are eating your livestock, you should probably move them to the city too. Which was, kind of like not. There are a total of 3 to 4 packs of wolves in Colorado. The Department of Fish and Wildlife are tracking them. They know where they are. Just like in Meeker, Colorado, 2 years ago, when the attacks were happening. They said, oh, it's wolves. It's wolves. Nope. It's a mysterious illness that these cattle have. An illness that tears the cattle apart. and are not consumed, but just tears them apart. An illness, not wolves. There's no wolves 300, 400 miles from this Meeker, Colorado, but it was wolves. Nope, now it's an illness. All right, this is pretty interesting. This is where I started to find it. The issue at hand is we don't know. People don't, unless you're local. The issue at hand is she was down, collapsed, body ravaged, or was it predation? Autopsy is pending. Yes, there are lions. It's why we live here. You can bet the authorities are not brushing this off. If she was already down, there could be multiple animal prints. Prayers and condolences. There are multiple animal prints all around the area. The victim died Thursday night, according to her neighbor. Haven't seen any wolves, but had a random six-pack of donkeys show up on my land near Gardner. Wolves are pack hunters and communicate through howling if it's a single animal attack. And then someone posts, my husband just bought land down an Indian Creek. Here's some footage. They have a stealth cam of a mountain lion, which Indian Creek is not that close to the area where this person was attacked. Some of you need to get outside and out from behind the keyboard. This one's very terrifying. I told several neighbors back in Christmas that there are creatures or animals in the area. On Bateman, I saw tracks on our property when doing fire mitigation. Crossed over deer tracks that followed off into the native trail down through the property. I've smelled strange, pungent odors of urine. My dogs are on high alert, but folks didn't take it seriously. I've dealt with this for quite some time. I've dealt with large cats. I've dealt with bears, coyotes, and anything else. I have claw marks on my roof. My roof is metal. Someone asks, are there moose in the area? She's torn apart. Are there moose in the area? That's almost like the government telling us, wolves attacked the Meeker, Colorado cattle. Nope. It was an illness. Are there moose? I shouldn't laugh at that, but, come on, people. I find it very interesting that one guy talks about how there are claw marks on his roof. So, could be the chupacabra or aliens, 1967. Well, it is Colorado. Let's see what this is. Anyway, now this guy actually, I like his comment because he thought about it. Did they find any tracks? Clearly, this person was mauled, but no tracks around. That is not right at all. Depends on how long the body was out there. And then, right, they're hiding something because whenever they said they weren't sure, an animal killed somebody. I can't remember when, and I am in my 50s. Right there. I really like both of their responses. It wasn't wolves. I find it kind of interesting that they are talking about, because I have looked, and where that mention of a woman being attacked, I can't find any article, and I really searched high and low on that one. So there is no explanation. The agencies are not saying anything. The only people that are saying anything are the people that live in the area, or the people that are on Facebook far too much. Key thing is lack of information. And that one person did say that, in 50 years of, reading the news or paying attention to the news, this is a very strange kind of, why aren't they saying, obviously she was attacked, if it was a she, because I've looked and I can't find, I'm not even going to say she, because we can't go off of the Facebook thing. The person was attacked, obviously. There were prints found. But why aren't they sharing that? Why would they hide that there are prints? Just like when I called back in 2020, there were about 4 people that died and were found in caves in Virginia, Tazewell to be exact. And DJ, friend of the channel, friend of mine, had talked to me about it. I called the state police. I called Tazewell County Sheriffs. Tazewell County Sheriffs, when they found a young person who disappeared a year prior, they searched this area, and a year goes by. They search the area again, and they find his body along with another body. But that second body was never released to the public, except when I called Tazewell County Sheriff's Office and recorded it. I can't record Colorado because it's not a one state permission. If Virginia is, Virginia, I can record because it's a one state consent. Colorado is not. I have to say, hey, I'm recording this. But with Virginia, I can't. I don't have to say that. But I did record the deputy in Tazewell saying, which body? There were 2, and it's, clear as day he said it. Yet in the news, still to this day, they do not admit that there was a second body. So why are they hiding this info on us? One, if it was wolves, they're not afraid to say, hey, wolves did this. Look what happened in Meeker. They were right there. Wolves did it. If it was a mountain lion and they're warning the public, please be aware, public, that this could be a possible mountain lion attack. This is what to look for. Instead of having an article that looks like this, you'd have something like that, please be aware of, while hiking, this is what to look for, and this is what to do. They use that filler. And the media does, they use filler to hide things, or They just don't share it and hide it that way. To me, something doesn't smell right. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a couple of photos of the area where the attack happened. You can see how isolated and mountainous this region is. And check it out for yourselves. So you can see how mountainous and isolated the area is. Prime location for an attack or any of these creatures that we talk about daily on this channel. Media and county government working hand in hand. None of these lack of substance articles do anything except say, hey, there was an attack, a possible attack. We don't know what it was. Could be this. Could be an animal. Could be a bowling ball that fell from an airplane, but if you think it is a wolf or a pack of wolves or, a mountain lion, and you have people, you're warning people to stay, vigilant and be aware. Why not put some filler in these articles instead of having them just be lacking substance completely and say, public, if you are in this area and how to avoid being attacked by a mountain lion, what to look for, what to do if you see one. Instead of just saying, be vigilant, be aware of your surroundings. Okay, I'm hiking and I'm aware of my surroundings. Holy shit, there's a mountain lion in front of me. What should I do? Shouldn't it be the media and / local or county government to say, hey, this is what you do if they think it is a mountain lion? Or if they have any inkling that it might be. Or a pack of wolves. None of it makes sense. None of it makes sense at all. And, wasn't it... What was it, about a year ago? 8 months ago, there was an attack in Cripple Creek. Very vague attack. But, at least the media came forth and shared much more than they are doing now. None of this case makes any sense at all. Everything smells wrong to it. And, Cripple Creek is north of Castilla County. And I hit pause there really quick because they still haven't. They did identify the woman in Cripple Creek when her and her dog were savagely attacked in Teller County camping. But there's still no outcome. There's still, if it was a human or if it was an animal, this and that. Just a lot of weird shit, and I don't like it. And you guys shouldn't either, An article like that with no substance just doesn't feel right. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that keeps this channel growing and going, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. And with that, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real, they are out there, and dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.